So here we are at the third portage. This one isn't as clearly marked. There are no sign markers here. But we figured it was the right place because the river choked down there and ended. So I walked up here on these rocks, and what do you know? We're in the right place. Here's our portage. Here we are at the end of our third portage. Water levels are pretty low here. We're at the end of our fourth portage. Now we're on Clove Lake, which is where we would like to spend the night. The fourth portage was really long, especially with the drought conditions. We'll have to try to get some footage as we come back for you guys. So we want to camp on Clove Lake, and it looks like the campsite across the lake is open. The one right next to the portage here is unfortunately occupied. The wind is kicking up and we see some bad clouds rolling in, so we're just waiting for an opening in the wind to gun it across the lake and into that campsite. It's definitely calmed down some now that it's evening. We see kind of a fog rolling in. We think that may be from the wildfires in the north in Canada. You can see a little bit of a sunset this way. Overcast, hazy day, but the sun is still breaking through. Sunset is finally past, so it's getting dark fast, and we are packing up, getting ready for bed. About to tuck in. You can see the moon rising in the horizon over there. And Ben down there packing up the last of our camp.
Well, we woke up. This is day 2 in the Granite River section of the Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness. And we got a heavy fog that's rolling in. It's very pretty. That's a pair of them. You got them?
We've had a great day today. The weather has been fantastic. We've spent the day paddling, reading, and fishing. Now it's evening and we'll be enjoying our books and tucking into some dinner before bed. It's day 3 out here. It's about 6:30 in the morning and the sun is just about coming up over the sky on the other side. We're all packed up, just waiting on our coffee, and we're going to hit it early and hopefully be back before noon today. Ready to go?
Let's go.
So we just ran into some other canoers on trail doing our last portage, which went well. And they said that the Boundary Waters is actually closed now again, the whole thing, because of wildfires. So off in the distance here, you can see fire smoke all on the horizon. I don't know how well it picks up, but it's making the sky all hazy. Right along the river here is all fires. We had a better view of it coming across last night, but yeah, it's definitely time to get off the water. The wind is blowing the fires towards us, so the air is a little bit foggy again.
So we just made it back onto entry point 57. Did about a mile in Magnetic Lake, another mile and a half across Gunflint. A really nasty headwind the whole time. We made it back in one piece. What was interesting is as we were coming in, we could see wildfire smoke just on the other side of this ridge. So there's some stuff cooking close. We got reports too from a couple people that we talked to this morning. They had one of the weather radios with them, and I guess they've officially, as of yesterday, shut down all entry points on the Gunflint into the Boundary Waters. So we're coming out on a good time because there's wildfire activity and it's pretty close.
Here you can see that the portage we came in from has been roped off. It is now closed.
We made it to our campsite for the last night. We are at the Trails End Campground, which is at the very, very end of the Gunflint. This is the last road, the last end of the last road, right at the very end of northern Minnesota, basically. And right when we pulled in, it was super interesting. There was a whole group of people that had vans, and they had these big canoe racks full of canoes and everything. A group of like eight young guys, and they stopped us. They're like, "Hey, have you heard?" And we're like, "Oh, closures and that kind of a deal." And they're like, "Yeah, we had gotten onto Alpine Lake, which you have to paddle several miles across Seagull, huge water, do a 100-rod portage, and then you can get into this really wild, pretty lake way the hell west of here called Alpine. It's a really pretty site, very popular site. And these guys were talking about how they had just done this big multi-day deal. They were in Alpine, and they saw one of the ranger planes go overhead, followed by some rangers in canoes that were making their way out there to start pulling everybody out of the backcountry because they're shutting everything down. All the backcountry is shut down now. And they initiated this 2 days ago, which just happened to be when we set in for our trip. So we got lucky. If we had probably...
3 days ago.
3 days ago, I'm sorry, yeah. So if they had done this, they had initiated that stuff even a couple hours earlier than when we first set in, our trip wouldn't have happened. But they shut it down a couple hours after our canoe was gone. So we got very lucky. But right now, they're doing a ton of operations up here off the Gunflint Trail. Yesterday, day before, into today, pulling everybody out of the backcountry, off of Seagull, off of Alpine, off of Sag, all these giant lakes, pulling everybody in centrally. They're like, you can camp one more night here, so this is where we are. They told the guys that we talked to this morning, you can camp one night last night on Seagull Lake, which is the most inland lake, and then you need to get the hell out. So I'm amazed that they haven't shut down this campground yet. It's a stroke of luck they haven't, and they still might, we don't know. But I guess there's been 2 new fires that just developed. One is Welps Lake, and then the other one is one that's 10 miles north of there. But we saw the smoke when we were on our way back through Gunflint Lake. We could see the smoke on the horizon, sort of close. So yeah, it's been an interesting experience. But the Rangers are actively pulling everybody, putting in the bands and pulling everybody out of the backcountry because these fires are getting really close, and we've had 3 full days of anywhere from 20 to probably 35, almost touching 40 with some gusts, mile-an-hour winds. It's all coming from the south and from the southwest, and I bet that's just blowing everything towards us. So we're kind of in a hot spot. Okay, so we made the executive decision to get the hell out. This is why. So we're like, well, let's go check out, go find some food. So we cruise down the trail, and we see more and more smoke. And then on the drive back to our campsite, 3 p.m., 3:30, we see even more smoke. We're kind of like, oh, okay, this is a little sketchy. And we see it coming from the fire that we had spotted earlier that morning coming out of Gunflint Lake. And in the morning, it was pretty small, several ridges back. We could see like a single smoke cloud rising and blowing kind of that diffuse particulate cloud west of us. But the winds kept going 20 to 30 miles an hour today, all day, and everything is so bone dry. And eventually we actually started to get a heavy smog into camp. And I was thinking like,
and we can see that there's 2 fires that were coming our
two
direction.
active fires hitting
One
our way.
going onto the Gunflint Trail a little bit south of where our camp was, and then one a little bit north moving south into directly our camp. And we made camp, driving around on the road, kind of watching them get bigger, and then the wind kicks up, read a book for a couple of hours, you know, go take a drive again because we were going to grab dinner. And all of a sudden it's like, you know, one of the fires is filling the horizon, and we can see the smoke is not only smoke, but we're so close to the fire that it's red from the actual flames, and we can see that. And so we drive down the road a little bit and we see the other fire, and that one is basically blotting out all of the horizon to the south of us to get back on the Gunflint. And when we marked them, we were like, you know, they're probably 10 miles from the road.
That's where they started.
Yeah.
About 10 miles away.